my students, I'm Madam Joyce from Educare TZ. I'm teaching biology, and today I'll be with you to discuss our topic, which is the cytology, whereby here we are going to discuss our subtopic, which is the biochemistry. So my students, before looking on our discussion, so now we have to recall on where we end on the previous session. On the previous session, we tried to see the organic constituent, that is the lipid, whereby we terminate by looking on the property of a lipid. So we have seen many properties of a lipid. So in this session, we're going to discuss about the biological test for lipids. How can you notify that there is a presence of lipid in certain kind of sample? So now here we are going to discuss, that is biochemical test for the lipid, meaning that we are using chemicals so that we can detect if there is a presence of a lipid. So lipid are non-polar and do not dissolve in polar solvents such as water. This is obvious. Tumeona kwa maana kwamba lipid yenyewe ni non-polar. It is hydrophobic in nature. In the properties of lipid, we have already seen it. That is hydrophobic in nature. Does not allow water to, it does not dissolve complete within the water. Meaning that they just floating within the water. That is, they are less denser than water. And here we can say that since the lipid, they are polar, so they are non-polar, they cannot dissolve within the polar substance. And the polar substance, it is the water. So simply we can say that they only dissolve in non-polar solvents such as benzene, ether, absolute alcohol, and chloroforms. So solvent ambayo lipid haiwezi dissolve ni tumesema hapa inaitwa water. But this non-polar substance can dissolve within the non-polar solvent. That is, kama ambayo umesoma chemistry, you can have this law, like dissolves like. Kwa maana kwamba non-polar dissolve within the non-polar solvent. Non-polar molecule tend to dissolve within non-polar molecule. And that's the law of likes dissolves like. So now you can see, so we have the examples of the non-polar solvent. We have benzene, also it is a solvent. We have the ether, we have absolute alcohol, and we have also the chloroform. So when you take the lipids and then you dissolve within this non-polar solvent, it can dissolve complete because they are non-polar. So the property makes the lipid to be tested effectively by adding non-polar dye, which can easily be absorbed by the non-polar lipids. So in order to test if there is a presence of lipid, now you can see we have seen that can be tested effectively by adding non-polar dye, which can easily be absorbed by non-polar lipid. Ndivyo ambavyo tunaweza identify there is a presence of lipid. But also we have seen that the lipid can be tested using several methods, including that which involves the use of Sudan 3 solution, the grease spots test, and emulsification test. We're going to see this in the figure 1.0, in the table 1.5. So you're going to notify there is a presence of a lipid in a certain sample by doing this test. That is, we're going to use Sudan 3, then we're going to notify the changes, or you're going to observe the changes which will be occurred while you're using Sudan 3. But also we have the grease spots test that are used to test if there's a presence of lipid. But the last we have the emulsification test, that is we are going to see in the table 1.5. So we're going to see how is it tested. So the basis of testing now, fatty globules are stained red with Sudan 3 solution. So let's start by looking on by using the Sudan 3 solution. So now you can see by using Sudan 3 solution, so being less denser than water and it is insoluble in water, a red stained oily layer floats on the surface of water. So kama kutakuwa na hiyo solution yako yenye lipid, then ukachukua Sudan 3 solution uka add into your mixture or into your sample, you're going to see the red spots, or you're going to see the red stained oily layer on the top. So you're going to see while you are seeing, or while you are observing that red stained oil on the red layer on the top, you will notify that there is a presence of their lipid. So now, in addition, also you can use the greasy spot test, that is the fat or oily droplets create a translucent spot on the paper on warming. So as already know that lipids are immiscible with the water, therefore addition of water to a solution mixture of a lipid and ethanol result into emulsion of tiny droplets in water, which reflect light, giving a white opalescent appearance. So now unaweza ukaona kwa maana kwamba kwenye ukitumia hii graze spots, that is graze spot test, kutest if there is a presence of lipid into your sample or into your mixture, you're going to have the presence of the translucent layer, kwa maana kwamba it creates translucent spot on the paper of a warming. So you should have a translucent or transparent layer or transparent paper, which will be used now to test if there is a presence of the lipid. So now, since the lipid it is immiscible in water, meaning that it cannot dissolve within the water, ndipo ambapo utaona with the addition of water to a solution mixture of a lipid and ethanol resulting to emulsion of a tiny droplets water with reflect light, giving a white apparent appearance. So ukitumia hii ambayo tunaita ethanol, which is an alcohol, for testing the grease spot test, ndipo utaweza ukaona sasa there is a presence of tiny droplets on the upper surface of your sample. So also emulsification process is permanent and complete in the presence of emulsifying agent such as bile, salt, soap, and protein. So emulsification also, it is another way that you can observe if there is a presence of a lipid into your sample. So how can you observe, or how can you know there is a presence of lipid by using this emulsifying process? And now you can see this one, it is a permanent and complete in the presence of emulsifying agent. So tunatumia emulsifying agent to know if there is a presence of lipid. So now you can see we are just using emulsifying agents such as bile, we are using salt, we are using soap, and also we are using the protein. So this process is important in fatty digestion in the intestine, as the emulsifying agent, that is the bile salt, lower the surface tension of the lipid and increase the surface area, hence they easily acted by the enzyme. So hii emulsification inatumika kwenye digestion ya lipid, ambapo sasa ukiweza ku-emulsify the lipid, ndipo ambapo wale digestive enzyme ambao wanahusika kwenye kudigest ile lipid watadigest very easily. Since within the stomach we have the emulsifying agent ambayo tumeona inaitwa bile salt. And the bile salt, while we are looking on the emulsifying process, we have seen that that is emulsifying agent. So now let's see the biological test for the lipid. So now you can see we have the food sample to be tested, and here now we have the lipid, that is the fat or oil. So the procedure is follow. By using Sudan 3 solution or by using Sudan 3 test, you can put 2 ml of a solution containing lipid in a clean and dry test tube. Thereby, you're going to add 3 drops of Sudan 3 solution and shake it vigorously. Then allow the mixture to set about for 1 minute. So utachukua sample yako ambayo ina contain hiyo lipid, then uta add 3 drops za Sudan 3 solution. Ukiadi hizo Sudan 3, hizo 3 drop of Sudan 3, then you will shake your mixture vigorously. Ukisha shake vigorously, then utaiweka itulie kwa muda wa sekunde moja. Baada ya hapo au kwa dakika moja. Baada ya hapo you're going to observe red stained oil. Kama utaona there is a presence of red stained oil separately on the surface of your solution, meaning that there is a presence of lipid. And if now the lipid, you will not observe this observation, tunasema hapo hakuna presence ya lipid. So that is how you can test by using Sudan 3. But also you can test if there is a presence of lipid by using the glass spot test. So how? Now you rub a drop of a sample on the piece of paper. So you're going to be provided a piece of paper. Lakini hii inakuwaga sio common sana. Common sana tunatumiaga Sudan 3. So now you're going to have the piece of paper. Now allow time for any water to evaporate. So now you can see it will take a time. So thereafter you will run gently in order to speed up the process of reaction. So the observation, if you will see the lipid are present, you're going to see the permanent translucent spot on the paper. Kwa ukiona hivyo ujue kwamba lipid it is present. Kama utakuwa hauta observe this, tunasema hapo lipid is absent. So we have the last procedure of detecting if there is presence of lipid now by emulsification test. So how? We tend to put 2 ml of absolute ethanol in a clean and dry test tube, and then you're going to add 2 ml of lipid. Baada ya kuadd, then you're going to shake the vigorously to dissolve the lipid, then add equal amount or add equal volume of cold water. What you can observe now after doing that is that tunasema kwamba lipid become finely divided and dispersed in the water, then shaken with water, it forms the cloudy white suspension. Ukiona ile cloudy white suspension into your sample by using the emulsifying agent, hapo sasa ndipo utaweza ukaona lipid it is present. So kama utaona haya easy observation, ujue kwamba the lipids they are absent into your sample or into your solution. So my student, let's end here. Into the next part of this session, we're going to clarify more about other organic constituent and this lipid. So thank you for your time and for listening.